Let's thank the Creator. Great. Let's make Him great. How good He is. How much He's operating with us with mercy softly towards each one of us. How much He loves us. We also want to be like Him. Let's now all of us together ask to be like Him. That all of us together will be like Him. With that same love, we will relate to each other and we will want to promote each other with equivalence of form to Him. Except number 1, Rabash. Article 8. Make for yourself a Raf, and buy yourself a friend too, after he has bonded with a group of people who wish to achieve the degree of the love of the Creator, and who wishes to take from them the strength to work in order to bestow, and be impressed by their words about the necessity to obtain the love of the Creator. He must regard each friend in the group as greater than himself. Let's read it again. Harsh. Article. Make for yourself a Raf and buy yourself a friend too, after he has bonded with a group of people who wish to achieve the degree of love of the Creator, and he wishes to take from them the strength to work in order to bestow, and be impressed by their words about the necessity to obtain the love of the Creator. He must regard each friend in the group as greater than himself. Question for an active workshop. Share a story about a friend who gave you an example of the importance of the goal. Again, active workshop. Tell about a friend who gave you an example of the importance of the goal. Yes, indeed, we have many examples that we get from the friends throughout the years. It truly holds us on the path, seeing the dedication of all the friends. We see a friend and how much, for example, he makes an effort. Friend who is overseas, and wherever he is, he tries to participate in the connect to the lessons. It doesn't matter what hour it is for him. It doesn't matter how difficult it is for him to connect. It doesn't matter. Maybe there are other things that he can do during his time overseas when he's traveling or something else. He connects in every situation wherever he is, and he shows us how much the lesson is the most important thing in his life. Well, we have an example in our 10 of a great friend who, his whole life behind, left his life and decided he's going to live the life of both physically and spiritually. He left Germany. He came to Israel. He changed his name. He replaced his religion, his family. He performed circumcision. He left his whole past life and entered into the spiritual life. And within a very short time, he also learned Hebrew. He speaks Hebrew. Indeed, it's an unexplained phenomenon. That you a living example that we have in our 10, and we rewarded with being incorporated in it and seeing the greatness of the friends, and we and receive an example we rewarded with being with our great friend Mick. Hey, they call him. And there's another light. Also left everything, truly everything. This would be an example for how he changed his reality and became our teacher, the guide of the entire world. All the friends in the 10 one by one, if you go over them, you see how great they are and how much they invest and how much they sacrifice and how much they give and how much they want. Each one in his way, each one in his form. It is simply the revelation of the Creator. This is how he reveals himself in the friends in the 10. I see it in a place, especially on Fridays, when you have these 2 friends who tell us about the friend in the world. It doesn't matter whom, no matter which continent is on, which 10 they're in. 2. By this he overcomes and does not escape the campaign. At that time the Creator gives him the covenant. That is, he makes a covenant with him that there will be peace between him and the Creator by receiving a gift from the Creator, which is the vessels of bestow. Again, by overcoming and not escaping the campaign, the Creator gives him the covenant. That is, he makes a covenant with him that there will be peace between him and the Creator by receiving a gift from the Creator, which is the vessels of bestow and the silent workshop. Why did I come to the lesson today? What do I want? Again, silent workshop. Why did I come to the lesson today? What do I want? Hello friends, in the first part of the lesson we're going to learn from a lesson from October 8, 2021 based on Shamarti 15. What is other gods in the work? Or a question or something. So, Article 15 from Shamarti what is you shall not have another god in the work, meaning that there is a creator, and there's a tendency from the sight of man to do something other than what the creator puts before him, as if there's someone else there, another source that manages man, interprets that there need to be stones by which we weigh them, and this is not clear what this is. A stone is understanding. So by which understanding can we learn the creator? And probably from opposite things. It always comes from a thing, and its opposite. That's we can learn what is happening here. And so on. He asks, how is the work weighed with stones? Yes, meaning through understandings, through differences between the two forces by which one will know one state in the ways of the creator, so that a person knows where he is, meaning from now until the end of all of our work, the end of correction of our work. Through all the corrections we can by measuring correctly our work to know where we are. This is a known thing, that when a person begins to work more than what is accustomed to, here the main word is more than one is used to, then the body begins to kick and object to the work with all its might. Since regarding Bistal, if a person doesn't add to his work, then the body doesn't resist, and to the extent in which one adds, we feel the resistance, since in the matter of bestow, it is as a weight, and a burden, a load, and a burden for the body, and he cannot tolerate this work of bestow. That's how the will to receive, linguistic will to receive, feels that way, and the resistance of the body, of the will to receive, appears in a person in the form of foreign thoughts, meaning all kinds of thoughts come of how to throw this burden from myself, and I feel, well, what can I do? And the body comes and asks the questions of who and what, meaning who is the Lord, that I should listen to him, and what is this work for you? Without that one does not leave Egypt, as we learned, not from under the control of the will to receive. And through these questions a person says, through the questions of who and what, that certainly all these questions are sent to him by the not the creator, but rather it seems to us as if there's some foreign force. Why is it coming to me this way, in order to obstruct him in the work? And then if a person says that they come from there, then a person breaches what is written, you shall make no other gods over me, meaning despite the fact that it comes from the creator, a person thinks that it comes to him from the creator, from another place, not from the creator, that there's someone bothering him here with this, at I want to advance to the creator, and there's another additional force even in me, that is there not outside of me, that is contradicted to the creator, and the way it's bothering me, it's really obstructing me, and I need to dispel it, and it's best if it would not rise. And that's already the essential main mistake a person makes, that he thinks that the disturbances that come along the way are those that want to deviate him from the path, and not necessarily to advance him specifically. A person doesn't understand that specifically through over his overcomings of obstacles he will advance in the right way. This is the most important thing to know, that advancement on the path is to overcoming obstacles, that these disturbances are those that aim him to the purpose of the path, towards the purpose of creation, meaning an obstacle is not an obstacle. It helps him understand and feel and establish himself correctly towards the goal. Therefore, the attitude towards obstructions, even though each time a person is not satisfied with them, that's why they're called disturbances. And yet each time he needs to establish himself correctly. Oh, I'm thinking incorrectly. I need to relate to them as they're called a help against him. Yes. So explains onwards, and the point is that a person needs to believe that these obstructions come to him from the divinity, from the Creator himself, since there's none else besides him. But this shows one his true state, how he's walking in the ways of the Creator, whether right or wrong, in order to aim him in a more precise and correct way. The obstacles come his way where he sees them as deviations from the path. We cannot advance if we don't feel that we're deviating. Then also the line that we're advancing with, seemingly who knows that it's correct. The path, the systems of navigation, all work on each time, showing us how much of a deviation we are towards the true line. Yes, let's say, how do gyros work? How everything encompasses, where each time we're measuring ourselves relative to the true line. The true line here in spirituality, we don't know. It's a line of bestow. Each time we are shown where we are in deviation from the line of bestow, more and more if we're advancing on the path, and each time we need to raise a higher resolution, a higher way that we can see the intensity, the extent in which we're deviating from the line of bestow. Hence, anyone who's greater than his friend, his inclination is greater than him, and the bestows, the influences seem greater, and it's correct. That's how it needs to be appearing to us. It's a sign of advancement. It's like from a little baby, you don't see mistakes in him. Everything's done for him. It's all completed for him in place of him. But the more we grow, we say, no, not this. You need to do this and that. And it's like we don't agree. Why all of a sudden? I've not allowed to do everything for myself. Everything used to be done for me. Everything was fine. And they're showing me that I'm doing in no one said anything about doing anything incorrect. And now even if I make a little mistake, it seems to me for a child, and already I'm told that you're not good, that you're not okay, meaning each and every time we are in increasing scrutiny, increasing critique of the disclosure of our mistakes, and higher precision and meticulous engagement, and that's how we have to do this, otherwise we will not reach the exalted goal that we have. Yes. So I'm going back to this paragraph, and the thing is that a person needs to believe that this comes to him from the side of the Creator, since there is none else besides him. However, this shows one his true state, how he is walking in the ways of the Creator, more correct or less correct. And by it sending him these questions, all kinds of woohoo and what and where am I and what's with me, which are called foreign thoughts. This is the who and what, these two questions, meaning that through these foreign thoughts, he sees how he answers these questions, which he hasn't, which are regarded as foreign thoughts. And for what am I alive? Why am I alive? What for am I alive? What will I get from it? And so on and so forth. And all of this one should know that from this, he will know his true state in the work, in the spiritual work, so that he will know what to do. Therefore, without the foreign thoughts, a person loses his direction. He doesn't know how he's directed. Where is that north? Where is the pole towards which we measure ourselves of where we are? So I must know, relative to holiness, relative to the Creator, where I am, and there for each time. And it's like we're flying in an airplane in some place, or sailing in the sea, or going for a stroll in the forest. We need a compass. Same way we need on our spiritual path a compass. And this comes to us through the feeling of from the correct state. And what is the deviation? Through those foreign thoughts, which we feel not to hear, and not to the right, and not to the left. So we advance in the right way. And this is very similar to an allegory, meaning how do we get these foreign thoughts? That one friend wanted to know how much his friend loved him, and certainly when face to face he hides himself due to the shame. Therefore he sends a person to speak badly about his friend, to slander him not nicely. Then he sees his friend's reaction, where he agrees with the person that talks badly about him or not, while he is distant from his friends. And then he can know the truth, the measure of his friend's love. The lesson is from this: that when the shows her face to a person, which means that the Creator is bestowing vitality and joy to a person, in such a state, one is ashamed to say what he thinks about the work of bestow, without receiving anything for himself, because the Creator is showing him that this is the truth and a person surrenders. He seemingly agrees to it. Whereas if it's not in her face to face, where he doesn't feel that he's in the presence of the Creator, meaning when the vitality and gladness cools down, then a person can see his true state in order to bestow, whether he's in or in order to bestow or not. And if a person believes that it is written that there's none else besides him, that all the foreign thoughts are sent to him by the Creator, meaning that the Creator is operating only, certainly already knows what to do, meaning that he must, despite what he has here to overcome, and adhere to the Creator in all the possible means, and how to answer all those questions, which all come from the Creator. And therefore, despite all these questions, he needs through them to once again come closer and hold on grip to the Creator, where it all depends on him, and everything needs to be specifically connected to him and adhered to him. And this seems as though this meaning the Creator actually is sending him messengers, just like a person sends a messenger to someone to know what he really thinks about him. And that's how the divinity sends messengers to see how he slanders it, to about his kingdom of heaven, his malhood. And this is how he can interpret the above matter in as much as he receives its care. That is all the good that the Creator is good, that does good no matter what I feel, and if I feel in some way not good, it's a sign for me that I need to change, just like in a compass where I turn myself until I feel myself as in the good that does, meaning all our states that we feel in life are only in order to give us the right direction towards the Creator, where if I turn myself in the thought and understanding that I'm in before the good that does good, and this is the source of my life, and this is how I feel him despite the fact that I don't feel it that way, then I need to correct myself and to try in faith above reason to feel that I'm in the good that does good, and that there's none else besides him. And then all the foreign thoughts, yes, which I feel and which I understand, only aim me more correctly to the Creator. That's what the Creator does before us. This is how he creates the path before us and helps us grow this way to be more and more understanding and feeling him upon all the obstructions specifically, whereas much as I aim to him above these obstacles, I become more adhered to him and understand and feel the system, because altogether what is it that I am pacing upon here, upon my egoistic desire? And then I join into the adhesion to the Creator, my egoistic desire, the coarseness, and this is how I build my partum along the way, where I'm more and more resembling the Creator. We're continuing onwards, and one needs to understand that everything comes from the Creator, because it is known that these beatings, the shim in his heart and his mind, where the person beats a person, where the body beats a person with his foreign thoughts, the body meaning the will to receive, yes, sins, they do not come to a person when he does not engage in the work. But these beatings that come to a person in a complete sensation, to the point that these thoughts smash his mind and come specifically after proceeding to ra and work, which is more than usual, meaning to the extent in which a person wants to add with his work more, and he kills these disturbances more, but he doesn't understand he needs to understand that these disturbances come in order to aim himself in a more and more precise manner to be aimed to the Creator. That is how our advancement is. Write down questions and later we will check, and that way otherwise each with this question deviates everyone from the line that we're going here, and these guidances, these aims along the way which we receive seemingly in our lives from all kinds of forms, from all kinds of corners in life, with our family, in the work, in the street, and the main thing is from ourselves, from our own heads, from our hearts. This is called, not that, or against this is called the help, against him. That is how our desire to receive is called that. Despite the fact that we can say that it hates us, it loves us. It helps us come closer to the Creator and to guide us specifically directly to Him. And this is called weights for measuring with, by which we can weigh and discern our path. Exactly. Meaning that these stones are understandings, thoughts that a person wants to understand these questions, which come to him and fall upon his mind, and then he goes to weigh the purpose of his work with these thoughts, these foreign thoughts that bother him, whether it's truly worthwhile to work in order to bestow, or is it better for me to come off of this path and then I'm not willing. A person doesn't understand that these disturbances come to him so that he will specifically advance, where as much as we advance, we will have even greater disturbances in order to guide us in a more precise way to the goal, if it's really worthwhile to work in order to bestow. And each time he has that same question, and to work with all his might and soul, with all his mind and heart, and that his whole essence will be only to hope that there's what's to acquire in this world, that it's how he feels, and that it's only for the purpose of his work in order to bestow contentment to his Maker, and not in any other corporal matters. This is actually what he feels, that this is what's constantly deviating him from the path to all kinds of little pleasures, thoughts, confusions, somewhat. And if he pays attention to the extent in which he's capable of keeping himself through this by the prayer to the Creator, then in that he's willing, and to the extent that he's not ready yet, but he nevertheless is shown where he is, to what extent he's deviated, and how much of this deviation he can join to the path to the goal, and how much remains for him that he cannot cover these disturbances, and to join them to in order to bestow, even though such thoughts come his way and such desires as well. So here is the work of man too. Nevertheless, when there's a deviation from the path, and he needs to close this gap of the deviation, and this is how we begin to understand that without the influence of the environment, as Sam writes, without the influence of the environment, we are not capable of joining in thoughts and desires that are foreign to our path. We ourselves are not capable of a thing. And then a sharp argument begins where he sees that there's an argument both ways, meaning which way will I go? And the writing warns us here, you shall not make no other God over me, meaning that you shall not have one that is greater than me. The Creator says, yes, that will define for you this path, this life, and do not say that another God gives you the stones, all the obstacles with which to weigh your work, but over me. Instead, one should know that this is considered over me, and this is so that one will see his true form of the basis of foundation upon which the structure of the work is built, that everything comes from the Creator only. There's none else besides him. And that's how we need to relate to all the disturbances, and to understand that it all comes from the same source, that you will have no other God with other sources for your life. And this is how you will take them also to your work, and specifically upon them you will advance specifically. Through these deviations to these disturbances you will be able to aim yourself in a more precise manner to the goal. And the heaviness in the work is primarily because they are two texts that deny one another, meaning that we have here always a thing and its opposite, two things that are in a contradiction between them. Which are they? What are they? One, that on one hand a person needs to try for all his work to be in order to achieve adhesion with the Creator, for all his desire to be only to bestow contentment upon his Maker, and not at all for himself. That's on one side, and on the other hand, we see that this is not the primary goal that a person needs to bestow to the Creator, since the purpose of creation was not for the creatures to bestow upon the Creator, since he has no deficiency for the creatures to give him something. On the contrary, the purpose of creation was due to his desire to do good to his creations. That the Creator wants to give the creations, and not that the creations will give him. That's why it does not belong to his desire for us to give him, fill him, meaning for the creatures to receive delight and pleasure from him. That's the purpose of creation, for creatures to be able to be willing to receive and to be filled with all the abundance the Creator wants to give. And through these two matters, these two things that contradict one another from one end to the other, for on one hand one should bestow to be similar to the Creator, and on the other hand one should receive to be opposite the Creator. And when there's a matter of correction in creation, one which is to achieve, which is equivalent to form being that all his actions will be only to bestow, and two, it is possible to achieve the purpose of creation, which is to receive delight and pleasure from the Creator. Meaning there are two things here that we need to understand, that we need to correct ourselves, but our correction is in order to receive from him, coming into equivalence of form with the Creator, where we want to adhere to him. And then how can we resemble him? Only by me doing an opposite action that I want to bestow to him, so receive from him. That's why we need to correct our vessels of reception in order to bestow to him. Hungry in order to come to my mother and delight her, that I will eat at her house with a great appetite, with hunger and with joy, and with them all the pleasures, and I will also enjoy it. So I need to correct myself, that I want to enjoy and delight my mother, for her to enjoy me on one hand, and on the other hand I need to be myself, and to receive in the big will, to receive what she is giving me, what she prepared for me. And then those two opposite things of receiving from her and to give her, I can really come to her, and for there to be a connection between us, adhesion, equivalence, and we will fill one another. I fill her with my deficiency. She fills me with her filling. Altogether we are filling one another with our intentions, which connect, and then between them you can feel the love, the complete love, two directions and bidirectional, that's called I for my beloved, and my beloved for me. Hence I'm continuing with the text. Hence, when a person has accustomed himself to walk in ways of bestow, then he has no vessels of reception anyhow. And when he walks in ways of reception, he has no vessels of bestow. Meaning there's a problem here, that our intention needs to be in order to bestow. Our vessels should be in accordance, vessels of reception. Hence through the stones the anim that we weigh with it, it includes both together. Meaning that by us receiving a deviation each time, and how we have to advance, where we are being shown where we're not okay, through that we acquire and the understanding of what the relationship needs to be between the intention in order to bestow and the desire to receive, and to the extent to which we can compose the instill the desire to bestow upon the desire to receive, and then we can directly discern and aim ourselves towards the goal each time in correcting that deviation. Each time. There's a lot of work in this, even though in advance we look and we want to identify where is this deviation. So therefore through the stones to weigh, with which we try to see to the extent in which we deviate from the path, he acquires both together, both the bigger will to receive and the intention in order to bestow, that is greater, in accordance with it being longing to the will to receive, as it covers him fully, because after he does the calculations and the efforts that he had during the work, and while he resists, he receives upon himself the burden of the kingdom of heaven and bestow above, as we talked before. This causes him that when he comes to draw the upper abundance, since he already has a solid basis, that everything needs to be in order, the form of bestow. Hence even when one receives even some illumination, he receives it in order to bestow, and this is because the whole basis of his work is built solely on bestow, and this is considered that he receives in order to bestow. It's a very high degree. It's a high degree because we're with you rising from here to the ends. Yes, We have a state that we make a preparation. After the preparation, we come to restriction. The first restriction, the first dimum, the first restriction, and then we work in order to reach the quality of being. This is our mal. This is the manner of being to which we come to. And this is all. The form of bestowing in order to bestow. This whole period of time. Bestow in order to bestow. These are all vessels of bestow, meaning they are working. In the coarseness they have youth of 0, 1, and 2. We reach the degree of being, and we will learn this in the introduction to the study of the tense. We will learn that this is called a righteous that is incomplete where his transgressions become errors and so on. That's a degree of being, and then we reach the goal which is already keter. To receive in order to bestow which is already they have used the coarseness of 3 and 4. Working with the will to receive in order to bestow. In this way we correct ourselves, and this is in keter the end of correction. And the whole path is nevertheless each step along the way is by us being in a certain state. And always we are shown the state of advancement in an egoistic manner, our ego, and the true form of in order to bestow. And we need to always close this gap between the ego and the creator in order to be still. Each time to locate this deviation and correct it. And by what can we see and increase and understand better where we need to work here. These things we can locate by the group. Therefore, each time we can do more, just like he says that behind every friend, the Creator stands. So here we can aim ourselves to the group, and in this way eventually reach the Creator. But here we can also see the extent in which is important to us in the ego. If it were not to appear, if the Creator wasn't in the I've created the evil incarnation, then I would have no ability to correct ourselves and aim ourselves towards him, towards the Creator. And each time we discover somewhat the extent in which we deviate relative to the greater, because the Creator himself we can never see, but rather the evil incarnation already shows us our state towards the Creator. It doesn't tell us that this is the form, the true form of bestow. No, it shows us how to walk in extent we're not in true bestow. And this is how through this we can each time correct ourselves. We will work on this all ahead of us. It's not a problem. And slowly we are advancing. And not slowly. But we should just understand from this the importance of the will to receive, and the extent to which it works in contradiction with the Creator, and therefore it's called a help against him. And without it we would not be able to aim ourselves towards the purpose of creation and the Creator, which is why we need to see, as says, to kiss the stick. That's how we advance. And on the way, the evil angel becomes the good angel, and there is no bad in the world. There's only good, and all the bad that used to be, we now see it was created, only for us to differentiate between the Creator and something outside the Creator. And then what's outside the Creator gradually disappears, and what remains is only none else besides him. That's the goal. So only by the deviations, by the disturbances on the path that we have, by these stones that we use to weigh in the work, by that we can. Friends, in the next part of the lesson, we're going to learn from a lesson on the preface of the original, item 26 from June 4, 206. Reading the preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah. Item 27. In the beginning, first of emerged. This is because, immediately following the first restriction, when phase 4 was banned from being a vessel of reception for the upper light, and was erected with a screen, the upper light was drawn to clothe in the vessel of Mal as before. The screen in the vessel of Mal detained it and repelled the light. Through the striking in the screen of phase 4, it raised reflected light up to the level of Keter in the upper light, and this reflected light became a clothing, and the roots of the vessels for the 10 spur in the upper light called 10 of the first of a. Subsequently, with a reflected light expanded, and extended from her and within her by the force of the 10 of the into, new from above downward. This completed the vessels of the entire level that emerged in the 10 field of the clothed in the T of the goof as well. This completed the first part of Ak, and we learned together the 4 phases of direct light where a light expanded into the will to receive that was made in its existence from absence, and then the work of the light on the will to receive that with respect to the will to receive the light is good does good in the root phase, and it builds the vessel of reception in phase 1, a vessel of bestow in phase 2, an action from phase. The action from phase 2 is phase 3, and the desire not the vessel of reception, but the desire to receive in phase 4. That's out of the will to receive in phase 4. Phase 4 makes a decision that it is going to restrict itself. That is the first restriction, and then the decision that it is going to be working only in order to bestow with equivalence of format, equivalence of form with the emanator, and then by that, the entire process, called the 4 phases from the world of Insoft is completed. This is and from the world of Insoft, and phase 4 begins to relate to the previous 3 phases, that there for her are as roots as the creator as the qualities of the creator. And then in this phase 4, which is the entire goof, the body that expands, that relate to the previous 3 phases, the qualities of the creator, and it wants to resemble them. Everything that comes to her as direct light on the right, she wants to respond to it with reflected light on the left. And then this action of equalizing with the previous 3 phases, this is on the top. It's called the row, the head of the PZU, and then comes the goof, the body, because out of the fact that phase 4 wants to use her will to receive in order to bestow, it expands into a new operation, and then in the new operation, there are 2 parts to the inside of the part and the S, the end of the part, and in between there's the taboo, navel, and on the top P mouth, and on the bottom conclusion. This is what he says, that same reflected light, because became a clothing to the 10 in the upper light called the 10 arrow of the first subsequent with reflected light expanded, not the restricted, but those same desires that want to resemble the creator of the desires that exist in phase 4 as much as they're capable of resembling the creator, either in receiving in order to bestow or in the fact that they restrict themselves in their S, and only in bestowing in order to bestow. They have no more strength, but nevertheless, all of them, the entire phase 4, want to participate in this bestow, and along the way she expands this idea, this concept of bestowing to the creator, because the row means in potential and the goof entirely, which is that same phase for the same phase 4. This is already the operation as a result of the row, and that emerged in the tensiphy of the row expanded also in goof, and this completed the tensiphy of a roof, meaning the operation of equivalence of form was completed as much as it was possible for, according to her impression from the 2 actions. What do we have here? The first action is a flavour. So let's say the pleasure that comes from the host, and the second is the gadlut, the greatness of the host. So the greatness of the host. So from these 2 impressions we have a result, an outcome, which is Mac the screen, and reflected light. This all actually comes from the creator, from a single source, from the kettle. And here is Malhut. And this is how the first operation of this created being called Maluto was performed. No. Well, item 28. Subsequently, that same coupling, by striking, repeated itself on the screen erected in the vessel of Mal, which is only the coarseness of phase 3, and then only the level of and group emerged on it. The absence of the screen and the coarseness of phase 4 caused it to have only 4 vessels. The reflected light has room to clothe only 4 lights, lacking the light of. This is called of. Words that same coupling by striking repeated itself on the screen in the vessel of Malut. That contains only the coarseness of. Phase 2. The intense field and Gufat. The level of emerged on it. This is called it lacks the two vessels and the two lights and afterwards a coupling of striking emerged on a screen that has only the coarseness of phase 1 and goof emerged at the level of lacking the three vessels and the three lights. It has only the lights and nephesh dressed in the vessels and this is called and bone of. Remember the inverse relation between vessels and light. This means that we have 5 degrees, which actually are already directed according to the coarseness of the vessel, and this coarseness joins the masak the screen, and according to that coarseness, 5 levels emerge. 5 there cannot be, more there cannot be less. These 5 degrees from the root to phase 4 are already rooted in the vessel, and the screen can be in all 4 phases in for 4, or 3 or 2 or 1 or in the first, in the root phase, and accordingly we have the height of the puff, the size of the poo. Accordingly they are called Dalar, Absagmar and Bon, Ra's name. These names we know already. Dalga corresponds to the ket. In the ket, there's no filling. It is entirely bestowing. This is why it's called Garla. Gora skull. Let's say it's a melee a fort, and we say that the light in it doesn't even have any names. There's no grip there because there is still no entry and exit of the light in the vessel, but rather all the attainment of the lights, the recognition of the lights in the vessel begins in AB. So in AB we already have Harver and a filling. Harver is 26. Inner and the filling is what? Harsh is the filling. 46. So together it is 72, which is ab in gematria. So equals plus 46 plus 26 etc. Sag is also plus its filling, which is 37. So it ends up being 63. 26 plus 37 equals 63. Sag is also plus 19. That's Mar. So 26 plus 19 equals 45. Right. These are the primary fillings. In Bon and in Gulcher we don't take the feelings into consideration because the last phase, well, the kettle doesn't leave lights and the last phase doesn't leave any records. So we only take into consideration the F the middle 3. What else? Let's eat. For the time being, he doesn't explain to us what we talked about. As we said before, first explains how the process is done. Not even how, but the process is this, and that, and this, and that. And he explains that there are 5. Where does it stem from? Where did it come from? What was the process? He explains that later, but first, he gives us the information itself and later on he gradually begins to explain where it stems from. In truth, in such a way, it is also revealed to a person who attains it, and therefore his way is a natural way. And the fact that it seems to us that first we have to lay the foundations, and from the foundations we should see how they develop, and from that development we each seeing the situation. That's incorrect because our nature is the opposite. We discover from what is already made, and so first we discover complete pictures that are clear, and only then we reach the reasons for them and why did it emerge and in what way and what are the components of these states, and so we reach from the holistic view to the knowledge of the process. This is how he explains, and truly in the same way we discover it. Just like in this world a child, a baby, first attains this is a world, and later he's being taught, and he himself begins from his experience to learn why it is so, why are things related in a certain way, etc. So first the externality, then the internality, and more internal this is how we attain the whole of creation all. In all is a garment that clothe on each other, and we come from the outside and attain from the external more and more internally. Yes, maybe you can explain why after the restriction a part comes out. What causes it? Why does the restriction cause the part? The restriction doesn't cause the part of after she received the two forms of impression, so that on the one hand it is impressed from the pleasure, and on the other hand she's impressed from the host, landlord. What does that mean? She is impressed. A single light comes to her, but because she already includes malad and biner, she begins to see in the light that comes to her two forms of relations. The giver, and what is it that he gives? And out of it she makes a calculation. Calculation. She makes a calculation according to her will to receive. First of all, what is the host? What does he give? Who is he? Who is more important? What is more exalted? Higher. And so it turns out that there is a struggle in her consideration of her nature and consideration in the recognition of the greatness of the giver. Between her and the giver, the bestower, is felt as shame, and this hurts the will to receive. When it starts to take into consideration this state, when it starts to take into consideration the state of shame, it starts to think, how does it get rid of it? Because the shame erases the pleasure. So, it starts to realize that I can get rid of the shame only if I give. So maybe if I will give something in return, and it makes the calculation, maybe I'll give thanks to the host or something like that, I'll fix it, and I'll be able to enjoy afterwards. When it starts to engage in the giving, it starts to receive a special relation to the giving. The giving actually makes it be rid of the vessels of reception. So it's not that giving prevents it from getting pleasures, rather it prevents him from suffering afterwards. Instead of that, this whole process brings it to a state where it sees that giving in and of itself brings pleasures not in relation to the will to receive that enjoys. And it's not because the will to receive doesn't suffer, but because in giving there is a connection with the giver. Already vessels of bestow develop in it, which are above its own nature. And then, when it truly has vessels of bestow, then it begins to understand that to be the bestower, without any relation to himself, to the previous state, he is the best possible thing. I drew here a few states. These states are called the four phases of reflected light. We are used to speak of four phases of direct light, but malhood, when it is built following the four phases of direct light, and she feels herself, and she begins to respond in return, and to attain the root phase, she seemingly creates four phases of reflected light, and she reaches a decision that she is going to be restricted, and she will establish a screen. When she reaches phase 2, she's restricted. When she reaches the root phase, she makes a screen, and she wants to be entirely bestowing. And then out of that, meaning that in malat, in her thought, in her internal development from malhood of and up to malat, which is malhood of the row of megalar, again she goes through 4 phases of development, or tensi wrote he writes about it. I don't remember exactly. I think in the inner observation in part 3 or part 4, he explains that there is such a process there, and I'll find it. And after this process, it is clear what she's going to do. That same is going to make out of herself equivalence with the root as much as she's capable of doing it. And this process is a process such that following this decision there is nothing else to decide, but rather it all cascades until the state that we are in the development of the 4 phases of reflected light. When it comes to the second, so is that restriction. Well, we have to get into this and talk about it. I don't quite want to get into it, because Balasim, I believe, didn't write about it clearly, as he did about the 4 phases of direct light. Somehow that he writes about it, and even then he doesn't really write so Clearly, if we take part 1, we will see how much these things there are blurry. So, all the more so, in these 4 phases in which soft develops from the state of soft the restriction, and the creation of the screen already, and to be mal of the of Galler. He hardly speaks about it in a clear way, about what are these states, but he says that there are 10 of development, of returns to the previous phases, and they are already called of the row of Galler, because in the row of Galler we have also a question: where does the row of Galler begin? Either after, when she's restricted, and she decides that I want to first of all be restricted in my will to receive, and afterwards she sees and she returns, goes over the previous 3 phases, and she decides I want to be the bestower, and when she wants to be the bestower she seemingly rises from herself to the kettle to connect with the bestower, and then she begins to draw from the kettle to receive from the kettle the lights to see with them. How can she be the bestower? She already repeats over the same U3 the same 4 phases that were from above downwards, but that's already not 4 phases of direct light, but direct light that expands in the Galler. And she draws it with the intention, with the understanding, with the calculation of how much can I now receive it. You know, that be the bestower, and this light is already revealed according to the pattern that she built for herself. It's not revealed just as the light of, meaning it is light that is arranged according to the tens of the row, and then she begins to respond. There are many things here that, about some of them, we can see some evidence that said so or not, but about others we can't. So here I'm completing for myself, so realize that he doesn't quite talk about it in truth later on. This process, this comes to us as the process of our work. The same tensity of row later on exist within us as the relation between us and the Creator in our personal, individual, spiritual work, and out of that we already work in actuality. And so it's not too bad if we haven't found here his broad explanation. Please. Item 29. We have explained the emergence of the 5 parts of fame of Gala, and B, one below the other. Each lower one lacks the higher phase of its upper one, lacks the light of as well, which its upper one up has. Bone lacks the light of which is its upper one. This is so because it depends on the measure of coarseness in the screen, on which the coupling by striking occurs, as explained in item 18. Yet we must understand who and what caused the screen to gradually diminish its coarseness phase by phase, and it divided into the 5 levels that exist in these 5 kinds of coupling. Meaning, he says, we have, each time Qi activate different kind of coarseness. 1, 2, 3 and 4 degrees of coarseness. This is, let's say, 0. Accordingly, what she attains these are the degrees of attainment, or degrees of equivalence of form. This is for us coarseness. This is, let's call it purity, or attainment. So if this is the greatest coarseness, you will have the Gala, meaning of is working with the entirety of coarseness, and from that, it comes to attain the Ket. Then it works with smaller coarseness, and attains 1 degree below on the degree of. It cannot work with the greatest coarseness, not with Dal, not with 4, but with 3 Gimel. Then with coarseness level 2, Bet reaches the degree of Biner. Then hoarseness level Alf, and then it comes to, then it comes to the degree of with the root degree. What do we have to say? The coarseness does not get purified. Rather, we simply don't use it in this level of coarseness because of the lack of screen. I mean the coarseness here we talk about. The screen that is getting refined, but it's under the restriction this coarseness, so we don't use it. According to the coarseness that we use, we have a level of attainment, how much we attain equivalence of form with the Creator, or to what extent attain the Creator which is one and the same. Friends, we will now move to a live lesson with Rob, and before that let's sing together. When we're lost in the dark and pages we are bound, and the key to the lock so the heart can't be found. You teach us how to hear and teach us how to feel and show us how to melt in the flames of your love through every face, every voice, every breath from above. You're the key to open up the heart. You're the song to take us through the dark. You're the seal behind every part. And we're going to rise together to a vision of your love. And we're going to rise together. There's a voice deep inside, and it's calling us to the place way above every doubt, every. You teach us how to hear and teach us how to feel and show us how to melt in the flames of your love through every face, every voice, every breath, and from above. You're the key to open up you're the song that take us through the dark. You're the seal that binds every part. And we're going to rise together to a vision of God. When we're going to rise together, teach us how to hear and teach us how to feel and show us how to melt in the flames of your love through every face, every voice, every breath, the gift from above. You're the key to open up the heart. You're the song that take us through the dark. You're the silver, everyone. And we're going to rise together to a vision of your going to rise together. Friends, we are in a lesson on a topic of winning the war. We will read selected excerpts to reinforce the world plea and for peace in the world. Where will join us momentarily. We will begin to read from the beginning of the document from excerpt number 1, and we will continue onwards. Rabash writes in excerpt number 1. Army are men of war. These are people who go each day to fight against the evil inclination. They are called armies. Therefore, after they have been rewarded with redemption, meaning after they conquer the evil inclination, and they emerge from the control of the evil, their conduct in the work was by ways of ascent and descents, which is called armies, meaning at times they emerge from their control, and then again they're under their control. Thus the name for ascents and descents is armies. Excerpt number 2. During the work the person should say, if I'm not for me, who is for me at that time? In a work they think that they themselves are making the ascents and descents, meaning that they are men of war, army, mighty men. Afterwards, when they are redeemed, they attain that the Lord is the Lord of hosts, or armies, meaning that the Creator made all the ups and downs they had. In other words, even the descents come from the Creator. Person does not get so many ups and downs for no reason. Rather, the Creator caused all those exits. We can interpret exit as exit from Adasher, holiness, and bar comes as coming to Kadasher. The Creator did everything. Hence, after the redemption, the Creator is called Lord of hosts. And now we will enter the lesson with Raf, and we will read the excerpt for the lesson. Excerpt number 8 in this document. Rabash writes for us, why he has made the work of bestow so hard was because I want the mighty hand to be revealed, as it is written, for with a mighty hand he will send them away, and with a mighty hand he will drive them out of his land. In which way is a mighty hand necessary? It is precisely when the other party resists with all his might, then it can be said that we must use a mighty hand. If the other party is weak, it cannot be said that it requires a mighty hand to deal with him. It is as the allegory that Palisson said that normally, when two people are in a dispute, sometimes they move into a fist fight. The one who sees that he cannot overcome the other, knife against him. When the other one sees that he has a knife, he takes a pistol. And when that one sees that he has a pistol, he takes a rifle, and so on, until the other one takes a machine gun against him. And if he has a machine gun, the other one takes a tank. However, we have never heard that if someone takes a stick and wants to hit with it, the other one takes a tank to fight against the one who took the stick. It is likewise in the work. It cannot be said that we must go against Pharaoh with a mighty hand if Pharaoh does not resist very strongly, And since the Creator wanted to show him a mighty hand here, the Creator headed to harden Pharaoh's heart. As it is written, "For I have hardened his heart, and the heart of his servant, so that I may set these tokens of mine within him." Yea, that is how Rash writes, to wage war on the evil inclination. That is our entire spiritual work. That we have to do. That we have to do in this world, wherever we are right now. What does it mean? It means that we always have certain obstructions, certain behaviors, and they all come to us from the Creator. They're all included in what we generally call the evil inclination, but gets in our way, and we need to try and overcome it. Love you, and to continue until we are able to subjugate the evil inclination, so it cannot stand in our way any longer. PT 35. Thank you very much, Rob. Why did the courier make it so that the work of Bristol is so difficult? Why does he have to show such great persistence and no to our lesser degree? The Creator has prepared for us a place of work, meaning a place where we can try and reveal Him, approach Him, understand Him, specifically in this reality we're in, which is called this world, and we need to accept it and test it, check it. Why do we need it? What to what end we given this evil inclination? What are we doing when we win the war over it? How can we overcome it? What does the Creator hope to receive from us if we try to raise ourselves to a state where we want to receive an answer in our work? Then we begin to understand one by one, from the lightest to the heaviest, more and more the purpose of the obstructions and the way we need to overcome them in order to subjugate those obstructions. And that's how we advance toward a state. All the disturbances and obstructions are transmuted through not an obstruction, but a form of help. I wouldn't feel the obstructions. I wouldn't rise against him. Then I would remain without the purpose of life without work. Whereas if I have instructions, and I accept them correctly, then it turns out that the obstructions as well help me locate the world to receive that is standing on my way to the Creator. And in this way I can be precisely aimed at Him, at the Creator. And in this way I continue my progress, my advancement. I acquire more qualities of the Creator. And I leave this war until I reach adhesion in the Creator, which is the goal of the obstructions and the goal of my life. Thank you. Turkey 1. Let's see questions. Turkey 1. How to subdue the evil inclination on the path. How to subdue the evil inclination on the path. To subdue the evil inclination is not in our power. We have to accept that the evil inclination is sent to us directly from above, from the Creator. And when we accept it this way, we can also understand its role, why the Creator made it that way, where it's hard for us to overcome it, and we get very tired and feel very weak. All of that is so that while we cope with the will to receive, with an intention, with a hope that we wish to go against it and deflect it from our way, then we ultimately come to acquire, instead of the will to receive, a will to bestow. And then instead of receivers, we become givers in the same direction of the Creator. And that is how we can pay attention and give strength and everything we have for the will to bestow through our friends in our small group, through our organization as a bigger group. And this is how we can raise ourselves in both quantity and quality higher and higher, to the point that we come to resemble the Creator as much as possible, all our forces. And that's how we defeat the evil inclination. Turkey 7. Turkey 7. When the evil inclination takes over a person can respond suddenly and hurt his friends in the tent. How to overcome above those outbursts. And what's a person's responsibility towards this 10, and what's the 10 duty in this process? The role of the 10 is a very high role, and even in our study, we don't begin from that, but rather as we advance, and people begin to have some impression from our work, from our states, ups and downs and so forth. Then, based on our feeling in a smaller group or a bigger group, we can relate these things together, also with the entire world. Then in such a way, we begin sort out to organize all our environment, levels and rules, and then we better understand what the Colists wrote for us, what exactly they meant, and with what kind of desires, what kind of components we have to fight, as well as what kind of desires we should actually try to bond with. Thank you, dear love. It's written, the Creator wants to work in a mighty hand. What does that mighty hand mean? That He gives us. Should I speak Russian? Okay. He gives us a certain strength, which is defined, certain force that pushes us away from the Creator, away from the quality of bestow, away from resembling the Creator. We are in such a state where we cannot do anything, and afterwards, we gradually accumulate strength to work against that, and we begin to work, each one, against all the others, meaning I'm in a 10, I'm in a certain 10, that's that, as to be. This is something we've discussed many times, and inside that tent, I have to express myself as a bestower, as the one who gathers everyone to a single force, and then, when we are in such a 10, we can yearn for getting closer to the Creator. Okay. Turkey 7. No. Okay. PT 29. What is the prayer? If there's a prayer for the Creator, should there be a prayer for the Creator to show His mighty hand against the evil inclination? Yes. That's something we need to think about, to ask for, and to expect. Then we will feel how the Creator is helping us, in what actions and states, and that's how we'll advance. 2019. Earlier, they were talking about burdening His heart. How can we connect that term to fighting the evil inclination? What's the connection between burdening the heart and fighting the evil inclination? The goal is the same goal. The extent at our heart, man's heart, doesn't hear and wants to realize what he has in his heart, even if our mind will be opposite. We're still inclined to listen to what the heart tells us. That's how we advance. When I'm in a 10, what does it mean that the Creator is, let's say, burdening my heart? When I'm sitting with the 10 here, in the lesson, what should I feel? You don't know what a burdening is. I feel that my whole life, especially for what's the burden my heart during the lesson, for instance. Now I'm sitting in the lesson. What does it mean that the Creator is burdening my heart? What should I feel? That you wanted to be connected to all the friends, and with them, you wanted to get closer to the Creator from the will to receive that typically controls you. So to rise means to not allow the will to receive to govern you, and that's what you want. What should I do? How to behave even internally? What should I do to ask? What to asking to your life according to your history? You see that you are incapable of subduing the evil inclination, and then all you have left is to ask the Creator, that He who created the will to receive also knows how to diminish the will to receive or decrease the will to receive. That's what you need to ask from Him. He also wants that, but He can't do that unless you ask for it with all your might. You speaking about to make efforts to annul towards the friends. Yes. Thank you. PT 14. Everything comes from above, and when a person feels the war of the inclination outside of himself in the whole public, so is that an opportunity to see the war inside me. Yes. What does that mean? That if somebody comes to me with a stick, I can't come with a tank. Where will you take such forces? From those forces of the collective. I can get even more From these disturbances in the public, I can ask for more forces to deal with the Pharaoh in me. Well, try and see how much you can or cannot do it. PT 31. Thank you. Bestow is felt as a burden, as something unpleasant that demands a lot of efforts. How does persistence in work of bestow affect a person's attitude towards this work? Ask the question again. Working in bestow is unpleasant. Unpleasant for the body. It demands a lot of efforts. How, by being persistent in the work, does that change our attitude towards the work? We first want to change our attitude, and so we overcome the will to receive as much as we can, and wherever we can't, we turn to the Creator, and that's the main thing. That in our prayer, we do ask the Creator for help, just like He essentially created everything, both positive and negative forces, if we can call them that way. Then we ask Him for strength for ourselves, training to have the ability to grab hold of the will to of the evil inclination, subdue it, take it off the ladder where it's at, and make it into zero. And then, with the positive force that becomes revealed, we can fill our desires, our vessels, with the light of bestow, and thus advance to our Creator. What qualities are demanded of a person to be a good warrior against the evil inclination? Only to find the central point that is between us, and aim us to the Creator, and by that we'll succeed. Next, PT 33. In the same direction. When you're in heaviness, it's hard to keep going, but we also say there needs to be happiness. So, where does that come from? This comes to us on the condition that we receive force from above, a force of bestow, and by that force we become closer to the Creator. And in truth, what prevents us from being in bestow, from resembling the Creator? Only one thing prevents us, that we ourselves don't want it. And that's why we have to better connect between us, compress ourselves, and from the connection between us two, turn to the Creator and demand it. Key of 3. Follow your love. That mighty hand are blows that come onto Pharaoh. That usually depends on how the person interprets it, this way or that way. But the main thing is that we wish to show the Creator how much we are willing to overcome our evil inclination that separates us, and to connect. And that's what helps us. Can that strong hand be revealed without a prayer? No, you're not going to feel it as strong, only to the extent of your prayer. Latin 11. Hello. Can we know that the mighty hand is revealed in our spiritual work? According to disturbances. According to disturbances, try as much as possible to do actions of bestow prayers, and you'll see how many disturbances exist in that. Smaller disturbances, bigger disturbances that you simply don't know what to do with them. Yes. Yes. Another question. Yes. So if I know that to begin with the Creator did everything, there are such actions specifically towards you that He is doing only according to the request. The fact that He guards all of us and helps all of us to rise a little bit more each time. That's true. But if we wish to have personal progress, it's only according to our request that the Creator can help us. Gracias. Okay. PT 8. How can we separate between the part in us that wants to connect to the part that receives the blow? Between Pharaoh and Moses inside us, how do we tell the difference according to the goal? The goal of Pharaoh is to rule on the level of this world. The goal of the Creator is to raise us and give us control each time of the spiritual degree more and more. That's how we tell difference. But let's say we want to connect. We're asking to connect. So what does the Creator give? He gives it a burdening. Then everyone can feel that there are many forms of burdening. Then a person is entirely immersed in it, and he can't make the separation. And we say here it's a result of wanting to connect. So now there's a part of him that asks for the ascent, and a part that feels that he's entirely in the disturbance. So how do you make the difference between the two? That's only by connection between the members of the 10. Only by the connection. We can turn to the Creator and cry and demand from the Creator to raise us to the spiritual degree. So only the part that connects between us belongs to the higher degree. Yes, but each one will feel the blow personally on himself. Yes, Women Europe, the war against the inclination, ascents and descents, all the deeds of the Creator. So what's our true freedom on the path? Where's that point of choice that the Creator himself, if he himself is directing also the darkness and also the redemption? I didn't understand the question. If the Creator controls everything, what is the point of freedom? Yes. What's that free choice? What's that point inside us? Our point of freedom is in the Creator. Inside the Creator. We have to ask from him each time to catch us and raise us higher and higher to him. And then at that point where we connect with him, we'll feel freedom and an ability to perform actions of bestow and to understand the friends and to overcome our evil inclination. All of that is only for an asking from him to praise us. Okay, all right. PT 37. Good morning off. Can we bring the burdenings earlier? For instance, like coming to the lesson. Especially when feeling good and in this. We building a second nature. The Creator will do this without you. You should think of how you've overcome what you've got. And if you don't see, pray to see better. To what extent you are immersed in a will to receive, in a state that is the worst. Her, age 10. What does it mean to work on the disturbances from easier to difficult? If we can even see the difference. Yes, we are able to tell a difference. Every time we will have more vessels to weigh our will to receive, and start from small and then go to something bigger and bigger. So what we can do is to always pray to adhere to the Creator with our desires, and then our connection in the Creator. That is what, shapes our ascent. That's what takes us out of the world to receive, and raises us to the world to bestow. PT 33 Women, can we understand from your explanation that actually the bigger the disturbance, it's bigger help? Yes, if we overcome a greater disturbance, then, correspondingly, we have a greater spiritual degree. But, naturally, in the most difficult disturbance, it's the most difficult time to turn to him, and remember that it's help from him. If you then receive, if you succeed, you receive greater reward. No. I heard that what disturbs us is that we don't really want to be in bestow. We don't really want to overcome the evil inclination. So when we come to that understanding and feeling that we don't really want that, what's the advice then? My advice is to become incorporated with the friends and try to receive from them force of ascent that they wish to attain and realize. That's the main thing. Man-person can typically cannot rise to a higher degree by himself. He doesn't have the strength. But if he looks at others, if he connects with them, then it turns out that together with them, he does it. Even if he doesn't think of it. It's like at school, where I go into a group of friends who yearn to get to the end of the lesson in a good way. Then I follow them, and I do the same. And through that it becomes easy to me. Women have one. No one wanted to ask there. That was a mistake. So I have here Turkey 8 women. Turkey promises a person that he won't get stuck in those disturbances that come up. How does he make sure he doesn't fall behind? A person cannot get stuck in the middle of the road because he exists between people among people who advance, and to the extent they advance, he's influenced by them, and then he too also must advance, because he each time feels that his disturbances are greater, and so he doesn't have a lot of options left but to overcome, to connect, and to make a request for correction. Okay. I'm very happy that there are many women. Today in the lesson, Salt Lake City. Let's go to Salt Lake City. Shalom. Shalom everybody. The question is, what is the final purpose the Creator wants to achieve for us by hardening the heart and overcoming it? Thank you. The Creator wants us to ask of Him to raise us from the will to receive that governs us to the will to bestow, and to the extent that the will to bestow will fill with something to that extent we begin to feel through it the spiritual world the Creator. That is what the Creator expects. Nova. Okay. Good morning all. Thanks for letting me ask. My question is about the first paragraph where he mentions the mighty hand will drive them out of his land. And then he says that you have to deal with the ego gradually. If there's a small blow, so I have to give a bit of a bigger blow. So that is the attitude when you get vessels of reception to work with. The wall to receive takes us out with a mighty hand. Yes, by giving strength. The one who wants strength to ascend from the will to receive to a will to bestow. No. So, we learn from the Coist that in the war you should use trickery, meaning not to go to trick the ego. If he does something difficult to me, so I have to do something else, so he leaves me alone, and I can keep working and be still. What is the right way? That while we're still in the world to receive and didn't pass the yet? Because that's what determines the work. The fact that we exist in a will to receive, and we haven't yet crossed the barrier. It only indicates to us where we are, that we're still far from getting close to the border of the will to receive, so as to enter the will to bestow, which is beyond that border. Chalav 3. We feel more and more dependent on the forces that the Creator sends us. Sometimes it seems that our day is like waiting for the forces to be sent from the Creator. So how to make the prayer itself bestow and connection instead of a date that just goes by waiting. From the Creator comes a spiritual force, and when the spiritual force influences us, it can give us everything. Now the question is, what do we ask, in what way? Who can teach us how to ask? That's why we're in tension, because the person himself would certainly get confused. How do you make your prayer every day such that every day it will be greater than yesterday, and then greater and greater, greater in quality and quantity, and mostly in quality? You should already be succeeding with that. You should be successful in that. 23. I heard that you said that the 10 rule is very exalted. So when we start organizing our environment and take duties according to what the Colists wrote us, what desires should we try and fight, and what desires should we use to connect? What is the sorting out? That's what we need to do in order to better depict to ourselves the next degree that we want to rise to, and to make it clearer to us. What do we aim for, and what do we demand from the Creator to do for us? Am I building such a system in my heart with different friends in the tent, or is the action and a different desires than me? No. In your desires, we need to find the central point between us in order to reach the Creator. What is that central point, and how to attain it? The central point between us could be from the same point in the heart, in the depths of the heart, that we want to be connected through. That all of us together, and then the Creator certainly sees it or feels it, will do the same action with us that we ask for. How to attain that point? We learned that we were discussing that just be in it with more of an open heart to the friends. That's what matters. Parts should we fight, and which desires should we try and connect? Does the 10 know which parts to connect? If we're still in the will to receive. Yes, I understand you. What parts? That's for sure. Each and everyone's heart has a desire to bestow and a desire to receive, and we wish to connect between us in the desire to bestow, and with this common, collective will to bestow, including men, women, we connect. These desires to bestow We want to bestow to the Creator from that, and that the Creator will enjoy our work from our collective desire that's aimed at Him. When we are in the 10, and we have to do the work and connect, how can we see that we're truly annulling towards the center of the 10 and not the just some desire? How can we see that? But you are discussing amongst yourselves. Yeah, we always talk about it. If we really want to annul into the center of the tent, that it will truly see that we're nulling in the center and not just some random desire. Or how can we make sure, if you are all doing a collective action, let's say all the women of the group of the 10, and you're thinking about one thing more or less according to whatever words you can compose. So that means that everyone is asking for that. And then the Creator certainly joins you and is going to do that. It all depends on prayer. Women must go 8. Women must go 8. Is it right to think that the disturbance that come, we can overcome it by creating a new form, by coming even closer in the tent? But you'll continue and see how is it better to express it, to say it. There's a big resistance. The ego really resists that new form. How can we break it in a good way? You shouldn't pay attention to the ego. The main thing is try to all be together and feel each other, and from that common feeling ask of the Creator. That's all. All right, I think we should conclude this lesson now. Since we'll meet tomorrow. Be well. Thank you, love. We will go to a workshop. Let's summarize the main things we heard in the lesson. I heard that our main problem is that we don't have the desire to reach bestow, and that the solution to it is actually if we become incorporated in each other, and we are impressed by the desire of the friends who wish to reach this goal, and to that extent we also develop the lack already is inclusive. It doesn't just come from me, and that's the kind of desire the Creator can answer. That's our prayer. In our prayer or asking for help, the ability to subdue the evil inclination, make it a nothing, and then we can fill our vessels with the light of bestow, to open the heart to the friends, to gather them, and we compress together and turn the Creator to help us with that. And if during the work of overcoming come disturbances and difficulties, it's a sign that we need to work more in quality and quantity when we turn to the Creator. I'm going to call it in the 10. I need to express myself as a bestower, as the one who gathers everyone into a single force, and with it we can yearn for getting closer to the Creator. By collecting everyone, I show my yearning to come closer to the Creator, and the burdenings are always incorporating in the desires of the 10. There you have the force to find the force that takes a person out of himself, and what grabbed me is a matter of moving forward. It only depends on our request. The Creator won't do anything if you won't ask. If you want to reach something, you need to raise a prayer, and then you'll get an answer. Yeah, and you can't ask if you're not going to have any kind of disturbance, this, that, or the other. It's incredible how our entire progress happens through disturbances, and you can no longer call it a disturbance. It becomes a, how we call it, helpmate against that which ultimately builds us as humans. But it's this kind of weird oppositeness for the person. We get to build something that is not really inside of us, but we can get to it only through contrast. So it turns out that this whole thing comes to reweaken me, to both call it a certain name and see it comes from the Creator, and also develop the true request in prayer that He'll make the correction to us, that He'll really build between us the correct attitude and towards each other, and our whole structure is really built on these disturbances, this opposeness between bestowing and reception, these two things that contradict each other. It's through that unit we can advance, and otherwise we wouldn't move. We wouldn't want to change. We wouldn't want a correction. We wouldn't want a higher spiritual answer. So, there's an ability to do it through the friends with the friends to ask the Creator for the corrections we have to go through. And this is the main thing, the requests. And I heard we need to each day raise the quality of our address to the Creator. This is a very good exercise to really clarify what this quality is about, which will probably depend on the level of desire, and that's not something that you can do on your own. It has to be a common thing. I've even heard that you have to start with something external, like say the words that we aim for, but ultimately we need to penetrate some emotional impression. But for that we have to see that the friends are in that we need to include them. We need to bring these desires to one connection that the Creator can enjoy. The whole process begins when a person wants something beyond the ordinary, and the will to receive begins to awaken, begins to disturb, so to speak. And that's where we need help from the friends, the group, and even beyond that to also discuss it. Thank you, friends. We'll end here and sing a song together. Look into your heart, and I'm sure that you'll see that the love we had was never really broken. Look into your heart, and I'm sure that you'll see that our love was never really broken. Let's join hearts and set our thoughts free. Broken pieces, connecting into one. Hills and valleys, oceans and time will not separate between you and me. Oh, 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 oh. Open up your heart, and I am sure you'll reveal that the love we have is always and forever. Open up your heart, and I am sure you'll reveal that our love is always and forever. Let's join hearts and set up us free. Broken pieces, connecting into one. Hills and valleys, oceans and time will not separate between you and me. Let's join hearts and set our thoughts free. Broken pieces, connecting into one. Hills and valleys, oceans of time will not separate between you and me.